Go ahead and roll for perception.
I got an 18.
Ooh, 18 is really good. With that, you can see some advertising space available.
So you're telling me if I have a product YouTube channel or podcast that I want advertised, I could do it here?
That's right, and you can get more details by emailing thedungeoncast@gmail.com.
Awesome. I'll have to do that. Thank you very much.
Enjoy the show.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Dungeoncast. I'm Will.
And I'm Brian.
This is the podcast where we talk about everything Dungeons & Dragons, from happy hexblades to hateful hunters. And today, we're talking about humans. Okay, Brian, so today I'm going to tell you how to human.
Oh, you don't need to.
Oh, I don't need to?
I am human.
Oh, that's true. You are human. Well, these are D&D humans, and I mean, I have an argument for that. They're not quite the same as real life humans.
Maybe you should then.
Yeah. So yeah, today we're talking about humans. It's the final race in the PHB that we haven't talked about yet, so we're talking about it today. I've been kind of putting this episode off, not because I haven't been wanting to talk about it, but I don't know, when it comes to the other races, you have all this lore and like concrete like mechanics and stuff to talk about, but with humans it's more of I guess a flavor conversation. I don't know. I don't know how to put it. Like, there's a lot to talk about and I have a lot to say.
It sounds like you're trying to say like your humans are based off of like your own concept of them and how they fit into your world. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, to a certain degree. I mean, we're going to talk about how humans fit into the generic world of Dungeons and Dragons and what that means. But also I'm going to talk about like, well, it doesn't have to be that way and it could be a lot of other ways.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people are like, okay, well, it's humans. What is there to talk about? We're all human. We all understand what humans are, but
do you though?
But do you though?
You would think like, oh, I'm human, so I understand humans, but I mean, have you turned on the news?
Well, fair enough. But I mean, one of the things about humans is that they're so self-explanatory that it's not necessary to explore their race.
Yeah, and it's the most relatable race in the player's handbook.
True,
because we are humans,
and that's a big.
Or are we Dancer?
That's actually a big reason to play them, which we'll get into. So let's just
mechanically speaking, as somebody who plays Dungeons and Dragons, it is one of the most interesting races to play. I feel like
humans are probably my favorite race to play in D&D.
Like I just built a human, and it was like the most customizable thing I've ever.
They really
touched.
are, and that's one of their many shticks. But I think out of every three characters, at least one, maybe two of them will be human. It didn't used to be like that. When I first started, I was really under the opinion of like, well, you're playing a fantasy game. Why would you want to be human? But there's actually a lot of reasons. And let's just get into it.
Yeah, we should talk about it.
Okay, so humans are a very self-explanatory playable race in D&D, entirely based on us in real life humans. They are most often portrayed as the most populous race, regardless of setting or edition.
Yeah.
In fact, in first and second edition, humans were considered to be the baseline race, and that all the non-human playable races like dwarves and elves and whatnot were considered demi-humans. So they were like almost like a subset of humanity in a weird way.
That's weird. Okay. Like
not lore-wise, just
like they got hit by fallout, or like, are we talking about like Darwinism when they move into like a different region? Like you became elves because these humans started living in the Fae. Not
explained in that way, although there is a fantasy series.
You became dwarves because you started digging holes in mountains.
Yeah, there is a fantasy series that I'm struggling to find the name of. The Shannara series, where basically, spoilers, I guess, the concept is that all these elves and gnomes and dwarves are the result of like radiation and mutation and whatnot. And it's so far into the future that it seems like this fantasy past, if you will. But anyways,
they're really just freaks.
Yeah, they're really just freaks. Anyways,
gross. Okay.
So unlike the other races of D&D, humans are usually depicted as lacking in any inherent abilities or magics.
Oh yeah.
They canonically make up for this by being noted to be the most adaptable, ambitious, and resourceful of all the races. The idea being that when humans put their minds to it, they can excel at any and all things.
Mm-hmm.
This is both reflected in the lore, but also in their mechanics. As you said,
yeah,
they're very customizable. There's no class a human can't excel at.
Yeah, especially with like picking your background and stuff like that. If there's a skill that you needed them to have, you can probably figure out a way for them to have it.
Exactly.
Because you just get to like pick skills, right?
Yeah, if you choose the variant human, which why wouldn't you? Yeah, very much so.
Well, sometimes like I got a lot of odd numbers on my chart.
And that, the standard human can also be very attractive.
Then you just get more powerful, like all around.
Yeah, it's true.
Pretty fun.
It's very true. So another thing that's kind of played up when it comes to humans in D&D is their curiosity and their penchant for migration and exploration. It's kind of used as one of the reasons that humans have spread so prolifically throughout the land.
I see.
You know, why there's all these varying cultures and customs compared to other races. Another shtick is that humans are given, in comparison to other races, they have a certain genetic malleability and virility. Two things here. So basically, unlike the other races, there are no typical humans. Humans can be anywhere from 4 to 6 feet tall, anywhere from 100 to 300 pounds. They have a huge range of body types, hairstyles, or hair types, colors, skin colors, varying ethnicities, customs, and cultures, while other races are more easily categorized by subrace. Like, elves have a typical build and look. Like, they don't have this wide varying body type. You know what I mean? And on top of it, the second point really is that humanity has this ability to interbreed and mix genetics with almost anything.
Yeah,
the only other
half orcs,
right? That's why you have half orcs, half elves, tieflings, genasi, Asimar. They're all the result of
human
half
subtypes,
humans.
pretty much.
Exactly. The only other race that kind of compares to humans in this regard is dragons, who also can interbreed with most things.
Like Dragonborn are kind of like. There's a lot of variety there as far as like
there is
color, like skin type, scale type. I don't know.
There's a lot of genetic malleability when it comes to dragons as well, for sure. But again, the general idea here is that while other races tend to be like this one flavor, humanity is this wide and multicolored spectrum.
As adaptable as their stat block.
Exactly. So this doesn't stand for all settings, but another thing commonly attributed to humanity is that it is often depicted as the youngest of the races.
Oh,
like
really?
they came along a little bit later. Like the elves and the dwarves and whatnot were here probably millennia before the humans showed up.
Oh, wow.
Which is it's pretty curious to me because like while this is almost always considered to be the case, like regardless of your setting, the origins of humanity are almost never explained.
Yeah, okay.
Like, there's rarely ever like a human creation myth. There's almost never like a god of the humans or a pantheon of the humans.
Yeah, like
presented.
how elves got like pooped out by a god, and then like there was a bunch of fighting, and they split off into all these different kinds of elves.
Exactly. It's as if the humans just sprouted out of the ground one day, and now they're taking over. Like that. It's just never explained, and I think the reason it's never explained is because no one asks the question, because it's like, oh, humans. Of course, there's humans. We're human.
Yeah, I mean, like, of course, there's like, it lends you the ability to insert like a portion of yourself into this fantasy world.
Very much so.
Like, what would a human be doing with all of this fantastic stuff going on?
Right, exactly. As a matter of fact, the fact that there isn't like a deity of humanity or even like a creation myth is in its own way kind of played up with the lore, because
I really thought there would be. Before we started this episode, I was like, I'm gonna find out like,
where humans come from.
Yeah, or like what god they typically worship.
Nope. But this is kind of played up because all the various gods are always trying to gain and hold sway over the humans.
Because there's a gang of them.
Because there's a lot of them, and no one owns them. and
they choose their owner.
And it's
they sign that devil contract.
And this is why the humans have the most wide and varied of religions compared to all the other races. It's why the demon and devil cults are usually a human issue, since all the other races usually have like a god with dibs on those souls.
Right, okay.
But Asmo is always trying to get more humans.
Yeah.
You know, because he
like,
can.
He's just like walking through like an apple orchard, basically like filling his basket.
Like, no one owns these fields.
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
So there it is. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of played up in a way.
Wow.
And also, all in all, humans are very much at the center of the major events in D&D. Like, they're the most numerous, they're the most widespread race. They're
always getting their asses attacked.
Yeah, they have relationships and they interbreed with most of the other races. They're always of very special interest to the various powers of the multiverse, as we just discussed.
There's no particular god protecting them.
True,
basically
exactly. There's that as well.
Also.
Yeah, absolutely. And because of their ambition, their curiosity, their tenacity, and their lack of history and experience that like the elves and dwarves have, they're often found at the forefront of getting shit done, both good and bad. Like, they haven't made all the mistakes that the elves already made. They're like a learning race. So like they're still having issues with like evil necromancers taking over the land because they haven't dealt with that problem yet.
Yeah, there was a whole town built on like this muddy, like they didn't know about all of the underground like water flow, and just like a bunch of their buildings started to sink.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
They
exactly.
just had to like move on.
All in all, they are...
Elves were like, don't build there. And they were like, you don't know shit.
You don't know anything.
Yeah, no.
Don't tell me I live my life. All in all, though, humans are the movers and shakers of the D&D world. And I think that, I think obviously the reason that this is the case is because D&D humans are the representation of us. And if there's anything true about real actual humans, we think that we're the center of the universe, and we love to talk about ourselves and how great we are.
And if there's anybody getting shit done, it's humans. They're getting shit done.
True. It's true. We do definitely get shit done.
No matter what it is, it's getting, like, good or bad, it's getting done.
Indeed.
Humans, we get shit done.
But why, even with all this, like, why actually play a human in a fantasy world, Brian?
Well, the versatility is like what really draws me to play it.
Right.
Why would you?
Well, I'm going to tell you all about how and why I feel about this, but after the short rest.
I like short rests.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome to the part of the episode we're not talking about the last thing we were talking about. We're talking about some different humans. I want to thank some people that came into Patreon. It's going to be first Casey. Thank you, Casey.
Thank you, Casey.
And Lauren Thompson.
Thank you, Lauren.
If you were waiting for your shout out, here it is. Thank you guys. If you want to find our Patreon, it's patreon.com/thedungeoncast. There's a lot of cool stuff going on there. We're going to be dropping a game into the $20 tier. We're dropping a game right now every 2 weeks into the $10 tier called FBATS for short, but it's a superhero game set in Waterdeep, and it's really fucking cool. So if you want to go check that out, that's where you can find it.
Indeed.
If you want to check out our Vault Raiders that we record, annually pretty much? Biannually.
Twice a year.
Yeah, we... those are some cool one-shot adventures you could check out. They're like fully fleshed out with like sound effects and music and all this cool stuff that we do. You can check those out. And also that tier is where you can get early episodes. So if you want to hear us talking to you about Dungeons and Dragons earlier than normal, you can go do it there. Otherwise, yeah, we shout you out on the show if you patron us.
Indeed, we do.
If you apply money to us, which we appreciate greatly.
Very much so.
But yeah, otherwise, check us out on YouTube. That's if you're not doing that, hit the subscribe button. We'd really appreciate it. Or tell a friend about the show if you want to help us out. Those are all great ways you could support us if you feel like it, and we hope that you do.
And if you're looking for a wonderful D&D community, I recommend our Discord. We have quite the community growing there. A lot of cool conversations going on. And
yeah, you guys are awesome. It's a lot of fun just getting in there. I like the off topic personally.
Right.
There was everybody was posting their dogs in there. That was great.
Yeah, I saw that. It was really nice.
Yeah.
That was really cool. But yeah,
check out and thank you for everybody that helps us run the Discord. We don't run that. That's fan run, and we really appreciate
the
admins and the moderators. You guys do a great job.
Indeed.
Find us on Twitter at the Dungeoncast. Find us on SoundCloud.com/thedungeoncast. Did I miss something?
No, I think we're good.
Oh, the Dungeoncast at gmail.com if you want to leave us any questions, comments.
That's true.
Let's go back to the show.
All right, Brian.
Hey.
We are back.
Yeah, that's true.
So, as I was saying before, I see it asked a lot, like, why be human in a fantasy role-playing game where you can be all these other magnificent magical races, like tieflings, elves, dwarves, basically. Like,
especially elves. Why not just be superhuman?
Yeah, exactly. Why not just be Legolas?
Like ambidextrous and like beautiful.
Right, exactly.
Live forever.
And I mean, there's a certain amount of merit to that argument, and I used to feel similarly, like I said before, in the first few years of my role playing. But nowadays, I tend to role play humans about 50% of the time.
Yeah, I feel like when you pick another race, you're kind of predisposed to run their personality a certain way.
Right. Well, let's get into that. So, okay, there are tons of reasons to play humans over other races, and I think for me personally, it's mostly about role play flexibility. Oftentimes, there's a lot of baggage, a lot of lore and setting considerations to have that come with role-playing elves and dwarves and etc. You have to actively think about how your race fits into your character concept and keep it in the back of your mind as you role-play.
True.
And there's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, like that very fact is what attracts me to playing non-humans when I do. When I usually play a non-human race when I think of like an interesting class race combo or race background dynamic that I want to explore. Case in point, my tiefling paladin character, D'Artagnan Bloodthane, like being a tiefling is a huge part of everything about him,
right?
In a way, like, and the thing that I wanted to explore was, well, supposedly the tieflings used to have an empire long, long ago. Well, what if the tieflings like try to regain that
their footing socially,
that social identity that they once had, and like, so he's actually a noble tiefling, which is not something you usually see in vanilla D&D, because usually they are people with no home. And like, what does that mean? What kind of people would they be, especially after everything they've gone through? And like, what is their racial identity in that scenario? So like, that's the entire point of D'Artagnan Bloodthane and why I have so much fun playing him. But like, and this isn't to say that when you role play non-humans that you have to have the race at the forefront of your character's conception. Like, you don't have to, of course not. But for me personally, I think it breaks the immersion a little bit if you just ignore the fact that you're an elf or a tiefling and what that means in your world. If you're just like, I know a lot of people will just pick the race that like mechanically complements their class, like an elven ranger or whatever, and
like a halfling rogue
or a halfling rogue, and there's nothing really wrong with that. It's just
the game's kind of set up for you to do that type of thing
to a certain extent. Yeah,
there's a reason it works well mechanically,
right?
Because they built it that way.
Exactly, very much so. But for me, like, just doing that and then ignoring the fact that I'm an elf and not taking that into consideration, it's just like, oh, so you're basically running a human with elf stats, and that's just not an attractive concept for me personally. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's just certainly not how I want to play the game.
Yeah, and when I say you're predisposed to have some characteristics or all the characteristics of that race, I mean like that culturally should be represented in some way through your role play, like that you grew up as an elf and now you're out adventuring in the world. That should kind of play into your persona. Same thing with being a human, but there's so much versatility. Where did this human grow up? Was this human raised in the fucking jungle? Like, are you raised by wolves? Like, there's so many options. Did you live with elves for a time? Like, what kind of personality? Basically, they're like Play-Doh to me.
Right. I agree. Very much so. Yeah.
And when I have my approach to role play is when I think of a character concept, I'm usually thinking of a personality that I want to try to like personify in my game,
right?
And then I'm like, well, what complements that socially? Like for some characters, it's like I want to be like kind of a carefree, like nomadic, like I don't really give a fuck, I'm going for it kind of deal. I made a dwarf druid, you know. Like,
kind of
hippie, but like rough and tumble and gruff, you know, something like that. But when I go for a human, like my last character, I made basically like a real nasty, like used car salesman type.
Right.
Like that, I instantly think of humans because that's who I am, like role playing. Or I thought of gnome, I thought of like dwarf also. But
well, it's just there's a certain amount of role play flexibility.
Right.
Is really what it comes down to. And like, that's my personal reason. And even though that is my personal reason, I think this roleplay flexibility affects a lot more players than you would initially think, because like there's this real tendency for players, especially new ones, to fall back on certain like racial stereotypes when it comes to role playing non-humans.
Okay.
You know, and I don't think it's intentional, but it unintentionally can make the character very two-dimensional. And I think like, okay, you're playing a dwarf, and it's like, oh, yeah, dwarves hate elves, or, you know, like they say Moradin's beard and they talk in like a Scottish accent, you know, or you get your edgelord drow and tieflings, which again, there's nothing wrong with necessarily playing that, but it can be overdone, and it can be creatively bankrupt to a certain degree.
Yeah, a little dry.
A little dry because
you're
playing overdone.
You're playing into this stereotype, but there's like, if that's what you're going for and that's what you want.
Yeah. And that being said, like, the stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason to a certain degree, and they can be fun to explain. You know, how many times have I seen like a Cockney accented half-orc barbarian? Like, that itself is a stereotype, but Cockney accented half-orc barbarians are cool and fun to play.
Yeah.
So like, you know. It's a little bit of both.
It's about what you want, but like for my character that I recently made, I wanted a certain set of skills, if you will. I wanted specific ones, and I was like, how do I get this combination? Like, it was really difficult to get with the class I was going for, and like really the only way I could do it was with
human or half elf.
Yeah,
which is half human.
pretty much. I mean,
there it is. Yeah. I mean, yeah, and that's kind of one of the things with half elves is they have quite a bit of that human versatility and malleability.
Right. They truly do.
Yeah. But as I was saying, so when it comes to playing these other races, especially for new players, they will tend to really fall back on a lot of these like two-dimensional racial stereotypes. Meanwhile, if you put those same players in same class, same stats, same everything, but make them human, these players will have an easier time exploring their character's personality because they're not busy thinking about what would an elf say, what would a dwarf say, what would a dwarf sound like. They're just busy being the character.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, I'm not saying that you can't do this with an elf. Like obviously you can. It's just there's this tendency for people to do this because it's easier to fall back on these stereotypes.
Like all I have to relate to are the tropes usually that I see.
Right.
So that's kind of where I'm drawing the inspiration from, and it can come out, dry, like we said.
Right.
Not necessarily, but a lot of time.
So another thing, another case for rolling a human, or at least having a human member in the party, is that humans provide a certain normalcy factor to the party, because if everyone and everything is magical and fantastic and awesome in origin and nature, then nothing is. It all becomes
you
normal.
raise the standard to that.
Exactly. But having a character a bit more grounded in like the mundane, it gives all that magical bullshit context for how awesome it is. You know what I mean? Like this is why
you're the bar and it's human and it's like down here, and this guy's an elf.
Right. Well, and like this
or
is
an
why
Eladrin at that.
Right. This is why we have in fiction a lot of times ride-along characters that we as the audience are supposed to relate to, because we're not. It's like, okay, I'll use X-Men. Jubilee is the ride-along character in the animated series. Yeah. Her powers aren't all that impressive, and she's always kind of getting in trouble, and she's kind of just there to watch the rest of them be awesome.
Ask questions
and like
that the audience would ask.
Whether that's good or whether that's good or bad, that's an opinion, but like that's what she's there for. And like there's a reason that is a trope throughout a lot of fiction, because how do
we get the audience to relate?
Exactly.
And how do we explain things fluidly to, like, why would this character explain this concept that's normal to them in this context? Like, well, somebody has to ask the question.
Right.
Who's going to do that?
Yeah,
it's going to be Mickey from like Doctor Who or whatever.
Right. I don't know Doctor Who. But
Doctor Who always has like somebody that he just brings along, the companion character, gotcha. And that's the ride along character, and they're always like, "What the hell are you doing?" And he's like, "This is what I do every day, bitch." magic screwdriver, motherfucker. Oh no, a door. It's made of wood. Fuck, we're fucked.
Gosh. That's your normalcy factor, though. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Another thing about the normalcy factor, though, is because it sets the standard bar lower, but that doesn't mean that because you're human you are lower or less awesome. There's also this normie factor of like the normal of the group is its own form of exceptionalism, because like while everyone else is magical and crazy and awesome, and you're just a guy, that makes you in a way super badass for hanging with all these. It's like
one
Batman.
of the best guys.
Yeah, it's like Batman. Like Batman hangs with people he has no business hanging with, but because he's so goddamn awesome,
he has all the business doing it.
Exactly. Yeah. He's hanging with Superman and Wonder Woman, and he's just technically a normal human.
And like the Luke Skywalker character, at least for the first, A New Hope, that he's the ride-along character for that.
Very much
that
so.
one.
Yeah, absolutely.
He has no idea what the hell's going on until it starts going on. That's why it just starts being exceptional as the movie continues.
Yeah, he goes through the hero's journey, which again is something that you, as role-playing a human, could very much do in a D&D game. But my point is, like, there's this concept in fiction called badass normal. Have you ever heard that?
Not phrased like that. I don't think so. I immediately understand it.
The Punisher, he's badass normal. Like, technically he's just a human, but he's above that.
Yeah, because he did
Black
more
Widow.
push-ups than everybody else.
Exactly. Sokka from Avatar.
Yeah.
He's badass normal by the end of the series.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like he has no bending whatsoever, but he still hangs tough.
Yeah, he does.
And like I said, Batman.
Man, he grinds it out for a while before he starts doing cool shit too.
Isn't he like, I remember him being the butt of a joke for a long time.
Yeah, because he's like the guy that would like slip on the banana peel or whatever and like look like a doof.
Well, in a way, he's kind of the ride-along character in a way too for Avatar. Like he's the normal.
He's a good personification of like what a human would be in D&D too, because he has to become like ingenuitive to excel in this world of people. And they address it too. He's like, you guys basically do fucking magic.
Yeah.
Like, I don't do any of that shit.
Yeah.
They have a whole episode about it.
That's cool. I really
and like all
that.
of a sudden he's a sword master at the end of it, which is like part of that series problem, but whatever.
I think it's cool. I mean, it is tropish.
You mean all of them become amazing in this short period of time, and not just the one guy? But,
well, for me, it's like he has attained badass normal. You know
well, this is all happening in not like 9 months of time goes by in that series.
That's a really short amount of time.
Yes, and he became a sword master in season 3 or some shit. Like, he's already good. I don't know. I have my gripes with that show, but it's overall it's good. But yeah, he's the right.
It's very rare that any story, even the good ones, are perfect. Even the best stories have their flaws. So, okay, so that's kind of like my why you should play a human spiel, if you will. But mechanically speaking, let's get into the mechanics for a little bit here.
Okay.
Humans are, as we kind of said before, the single most customizable race of choice. Essentially, they are capable of playing any class exceptionally well. The standard human gets a flat +1 to all ability scores.
Right. No one else gets that.
Yeah, no one else gets that. That's basically a +6 to your ability. Everyone else is limited to a +3.
Are they also the only race not to get like a +2 to something?
That's true. They don't get a +2 to anything.
Yeah, okay.
And that kind of feeds into like humans aren't inherently amazing at anything. They have to technically work for it.
Right, got it. So you could be at the end of like a level 20 campaign, you'll have high stats and stuff.
Oh yeah, you won't fall very far behind at all in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it's only 1 point.
Now, some people will argue, I will argue that the flat +1 to all ability scores is boring, but it's undeniably universally useful for any class.
It's more powerful statistically. I mean, like you're getting 6 extra points as opposed to 3.
Well, it's powerful statistically, but not compared to the variant human, which is what most people tend to take. If you're not aware what the variant human is, it is in the player's handbook.
Yeah, it's like this little greened out like thought bubble looking thing.
Exactly. And the variant human gets an extra skill of their choice, which is great for literally any class, especially a lot of the classes don't get a lot of skill choices. Like, I think the fighter, you only get to pick 2 for your class.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is very limiting. But if you're human, you get that third one.
I've been a fighter.
Right. So that extra skill is very useful, especially since it can be literally anything. So it's a nice way to get a skill that isn't part of your class or background.
Yeah, you can get something fucking crazy. You can get like deception when you have no business having that.
Right,
something.
Exactly. You also get a free feat at level 1, which is extremely powerful and versatile because feats in 5e are very powerful.
They are.
And can really define what your character can do in a lot of ways. And then on top of it, you still do get a +1 to 2 abilities of your choice, which, if you ask me, is still like 70 to 80% as useful as the entire standard human array.
Yeah, you can usually with the variant. I took the variant in my last human build because it helped me attain the goal. Like the +1 to everything would have done that, but I wanted that extra skill really bad. I still haven't even picked the feat. I have not applied that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I'm still waiting on that.
I didn't even ask you about the feat.
I haven't picked it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, I'm excited about your decision.
Oh, I'm going to be playing this character in Will's game, and hopefully you guys will see it someday because we're planning on releasing that game to the public.
We are indeed.
More about that probably
later.
In like 3 weeks from now.
Yeah, we'll get back to you on that.
Yeah.
So with all that being said, as a DM, you get to decide how humans fit into your game. All this other stuff, that's the normal way of doing it. It's the most common way of doing it. I mean, it's how I do it. But there are other ways that humans don't have to fit into your world that way. So I wrote down a couple ways that you could kind of spice it up and change the human dynamic of your game.
Spicy. Let's do it.
Let's get zesty. All right. So perhaps in your world, humans actually aren't all that prolific. Perhaps they were driven to near extinction.
Oh.
Yeah. And some other race
Which
has
makes
filled
sense
the void.
by all this nasty bullshit.
Yeah,
that 5e
exactly.
has to offer,
D&D is a dangerous world. So
especially for babies.
It could happen. So number one, who fills the void? And how does that affect the entire world? And now, if you are a human...
Does anyone fill the void?
Does anyone fill the void? That's another question. But another thing is, if you do roll human in this kind of setting, assuming that they are available... what is your relationship with the rest of the world? Like, how does the rest of the world see you? Like, do they despise you? Were you guys driven to near extinction because you did bad?
Yeah.
And now
you went on too many capitalist ventures in other lands.
Right.
And now everybody hates your guts.
Exactly. Now humans are a pariah. Or are you pitied by the or do elves like pity you, and like maybe like the few remaining humans that do exist were actually sequestered and protected by like the elves and dwarves, and now
like you would have gone extinct if it wasn't for like other races
like intervening. Yeah, exactly.
They're like, stop shitting in the streets,
right,
and stop not killing the vermin.
Well, in a way, this kind of feels like where the void, or not the void, but it fills the niche of like halflings, where like halflings are often protected by elves and humans, and like they don't tend to have their own like full blown societies beyond like small towns.
Right.
They tend to intermingle and be protected by all the bigger races.
True. Like you're a halfling and you're living in a world with like there's not many of me, like half orcs.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Another take on humanity is perhaps humans are actually feared by all the non-humans due to complete world domination. Maybe there's actually been subjugation of all the non-humans. And so, like, what does that do to your D&D campaign? Perhaps rolling non-humans is really rare, and like maybe that means that your D&D party has to be like 4/5 human, and maybe you got 1 or 2 like non-humans in the party. And what's that dynamic like?
Or you're all non-human races, and you're all rogues, and you're just stealthing about.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, sure. I mean, that would be kind of fun, really.
Oh yeah.
Assassins. Yeah, another take is it's more of like a timeline thing where like maybe the point of history that you're playing in, humanity hasn't yet risen to prominence, and maybe like this is during like the time of dragon and elven empires.
Yeah, you're on that come up.
Humans are still like in primitive barbaric kind of society.
Okay.
So like if you play like a human barbarian in this situation, like where does that, like that sounds actually kind of fun to me, because like you're this
like
human barbarian
post Stone Age, like
like
humans?
like between the Stone Age and the Bronze Age.
Yeah,
if you will.
okay.
And then you get
you're almost a Roman.
Yeah, well, no, not quite. You're kind of far. You're not even. You're like Babylonian times, if you will.
Okay, that's good.
But my point is like getting to play like this primitive being and then being thrown into like these great empires and magical bullshit of like elves and dragons and all
that's
kind of
cool.
Yeah, it'd be
and
really
you're like
cool.
amazed all the
because
time.
because like in a lot of D&D lore, like supposedly giants once ruled half the world until the dragons came, and like there was a war, and like meanwhile elves were doing their thing. It's like, but no one ever plays during that time. No one ever plays a D&D set in that time.
That's interesting.
And I think it would be really fucking cool
everything's
to do
unfolding.
that.
Like the prominence of humanity is starting to get their footing. Like
Right.
in those years.
Right, exactly. So there's a lot of things you could do with humans. They don't have to be this vanilla representation of real life humans, although I think that is awesome and great, and it's usually why I roll humans. But
That'd be cool if like humans were the first adventurers, you know, like really starting to go out and tackle like learning about other cultures and then returning with like their spoils pretty much of knowledge.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I mean, in a way it kind of is like that, except for it's often like it's like humans they're not technically the first, but it's been so long since the elves went and did that and then went and isolated themselves that they might as well be the first, because no one else has
elves
done
are
it
like,
in
we did
millennia.
all that and we have everything we need.
Exactly. And that's kind of like the theme with elves is like their culture has become stagnant and it no longer evolving, because they
see it as perfect.
They see it's not even that they see it as perfect, but it's almost like elves are too scared to do anything because they've made enough mistakes to realize that like pride leads to folly, which leads to the fall of their civilization. So that's a whole
like
other
they're
thing.
Scared of like walking outside and getting hit by a bus.
Yeah. This path works, why walk off of it?
Right. Okay.
So that's my take on humans. That's basically all I have to say about humans. Do you have anything else to say about humans?
I mean, like just that if you haven't rolled one before, they're a lot more interesting than they look.
Yeah, I agree. I if you haven't rolled a human, just try it. I really recommend it because it's a lot of fun. I always like being a human. So
yeah.
So with that being said, I think we can call it a game.
Let's do it. Let's call it a game.
We'll talk to you guys later. The Dungeoncast. It feels so silly that we're talking about humans, even though I have a lot to say.